Hi Libra, how are you? All right, welcome to this space. If you're new here, welcome. It's called Opal Oracle, and my name's Raaji. And if you're returning, welcome back. You know all these things, and it's nice to see you again. Okay, I hope you're good. So you're actually the 7th sign, and this month I'm continuing rather to use the same thing. The same cards that I did before. And just so you know, because they're such a cool deck, Sergio Topi's Primordial Tarot, really, really beautiful. I almost considered doing something really different for you, and there was a want to do that. So even though I'm not doing that, maybe you, on the other end of this, it may be wise for you to think about what you can do differently than you have been, right? Maybe break a pattern, or just being aware of what you need to do versus, say, what's comfortable to you, or what maybe others need. Because if you don't handle your own, we've talked about this before. If you want to help, you have to help yourself first, right? Pisces talked about this. The Lord helps those who help themselves, right? Okay. Libra, where should we start? The middle. Let's start right in the smack dab middle. Okay. She's intense. When is what she looking at? She's looking at the King. Okay. So there's there's a strong conversation here, right? This is almost like Libra to Taurus. So I guess this is also how you feel about your relationships with others. And I feel like well, let me see what she says. I've actually never seen her before. You want to look at her face? She's super intense. She's super intense. And she's actually looking over at the King of Jewels, which has come a lot in this reading, and we'll talk about that. It's about different kinds of leadership, right? Some are benevolent, some are controlling, some are useless, right? It depends. Okay. I feel like this has to do with when, I don't know, like when you were, it's like when you were young. Could be 4 years ago. It could be when you were 4. Could be, I'm seeing like adolescent, like preteen to toddler. Okay, I just want to read this to you. It says, the woman stands in stillness, only her chest heaving with deep breaths as the adrenaline eases from her body. She has a flintstone knife covered in fresh blood from her recent kill. Maybe the prey she chose to hunt was stronger than she anticipated. Maybe she was unexpectedly attacked and had to defend herself from a beast. Either way, she had an experience that required a short burst of extreme aggression in order to preserve her own life. She had to act swiftly and decisively. Now that it is over, she struggles to regain physical, mental, and emotional equilibrium. Now the thing is this is at the heart of the matter, so to me this doesn't necessarily have to be happening for all of you at this very moment. But it's something in your heart that's still scared of something. And I guess this also represents that there needs to be sort of swift action that's being taken and concentrate your effort, right? Because what you're trying to do is ensure the future is good. Now, for some of you, this could be where, for instance, there's a fear in your heart because of whatever you're scared of, right? In making a decisive action, right? A swift and decisive action that is very confident. Because it could sort of be like standing up for yourself, right? For instance, when a Libra finally gets upset, ooh, doggy, right? It's intense, right? Because all that Saturn that's inside of you comes out, right? And it's like, whoa, this is Libra, I thought you were so sweet. Now, again, you can behave any way you want to behave, but you got to be honest, because nothing can be perfect all the time. Maybe that's that whole Libra-Taurus energy, right? It's like there isn't always Venus, sometimes there's Mars. There isn't always the sun or positivity. Sometimes there's moon and there's like scary feelings, right? And actually, I saw moon in the 5th house. So I guess this is also some inner child. Maybe you want to watch Cancer's reading. They're square to you. Let's start at the beginning. Okay, the 3 of Nature. Let's read her. She's pretty intense. She's looking over at the King of Nature. Just a second. I hope you don't mind learning with me. Okay. And this has to do with Virgo. It says, this is called the mask of nature. It says this person wears a mask, wears the mask of a tree. And through those eyes, she sees things differently. Hold on. I cut my hand, so I want to do the thing that actually feels better. Movement is more difficult. Vision is reduced. She stands still, feeling grounded by connecting to earth. Feeling the wind move the branches above her head, she bends and she sways, bending but never breaking. She discovers the power and the gifts of the tree, and now she can bring that magic into her body and into her life. Her intentional connection in nature allowed her to perceive other realities that move through and weave with her own. By experiencing a reality unlike her own, she grows in wisdom and understanding. If she can connect with other worlds, surely she can connect with other humans. Oh, and I saw this before, like when you were 3 or 4. Yes, time. This card is entitled Time. It's a very Saturn card to me. This sits above your heart. So this is sort of Leo and Saturn together. Sun, Saturn polarity. Just a second. I have my own perspectives about it, but I'm curious what this person says here. Just a minute. Oh, he actually doesn't mention it. Well, Sun, Moon... Hold on. Well, I just saw the ego complex. Let's talk about this for a second. We'll have a little astrological lesson. This is the ego complex of chart factors consist of midheaven, the Sun, Mars, and Saturn. As a group, they are the most important determining factor in what a person is. When he does and how he is distinguished, what he does and how he is distinguished from other people. The moon is also extremely important, but its influence is felt before the ego principle is formed. And if you're curious about this, because Libra is low sun, it means Libra is low ego, right? Just like Taurus, just like Aquarius. Now the thing is third house actually represents, second, third house, to me, both of these, it's kind of in between the two. It's like the cusp is what is actually where your ego development is when you were a child, right? Like where you learn your own power, or you learn how to be like, well, I want, or I like, or I, like where you understand more about yourself, right? I don't want to, no, things like that. Like even when I said that, my knees just got tingly, right? This is Capricorn. It's like Saturn energy where you're learning different boundaries, right? Like I'm a girl, like I don't like mayonnaise. Whatever it is, these things are important, right? No, I heard, no, I don't want the swing to go up so far. Just a minute. Yes, one sense of being clearly distinct from others. Ego, right? The belief that I am not my neighbor, no matter how much I have in common with him. The sense of separation and differentness is the result of Saturn, but the actual boundary line between oneself and others is in the horizon, the ascendant-descendant axis. Saturn signifies the sense of separateness, while the horizon indicates the exact form it takes and how it is experienced. The need to survive, right? The need to survive and maintain one's individuality in the face of pressures from people and circumstances. This is signified jointly by Sun and Mars. This person calls it simply the will to be or the ego drive. The function of Sun and Mars should be clear from the discussions in the individual chapters on those planets. So we just mentioned a lot there. Again, maybe you want to look at your third, fourth, fifth house. This is kind of like the bottom piece of the pie. If you made an hourglass time, right? If you made an hourglass in your chart, we talked about this on Patreon. It's called The Cross of Matter. Maybe you want to, for those of you who are there, you want to reference this. It's like finding, because this is basically the time all the sand has gone to the bottom, right? And now what happens is you need to flip it over to be able to, continue an awareness of the time. And I keep seeing the number like 13, 14. Okay, let's keep moving. Okay, you also have the Mask of Souls. Interesting. Let's read that one. That seems important. Because it mirrors, it's like the mask of nature and then the mask of souls. But because remember, wherever there's a mask, though, there's always like a little bit of fear. What are you scared of? Okay. Can you see? It says the shaman dons a mask that could be both anguish and joy and performs the sacred dance. This dance expresses the sorrow of the tribe for any transgressions and seeks to appease the gods that protect and nourish them. This dance releases the actions and feelings through movement and sound, letting them ground into the earth and float away in the breeze. The next phase of the dance celebrates their relationships. They understand that their relationship is with all beings, physical and spiritual, and these are based on reciprocity, which is a huge word for you. Even though mistakes are made, balance can always be restored. What begins in sadness ends in joy, the experience of hope strengthened through connection. Excuse me. Telemarketer.
Calls will not be answered.
Quit it. I'm so sorry. That's quite a different energy. Sorry about that. Right, sometimes you're not supposed to answer the phone, right? What did this just say? Strength through connection. Like, for instance, yes, sadness always ends in joy, right? But when it comes to Libra and ego, you have to remember, it's important to remember that sometimes the lesson in life, yes, you always want to find the peace about something, right? That's part of finding the balance about something, but a big part of that is, well, also loving yourself and feeling Aries, the opposite of you, brave. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the sextile to you, courageous. And the other sextile to you, faithful. It's basically faith, Libra. What you need is faith in your heart to find your courage. This is the animal, look at that bird. This is the animal of jewels. Somebody else had this card, Pisces, I think. How did your mother protect you? Or like, who protected you when you were little? Who defended you? Who stuck up for you? And I need to remember that wherever you stick up for other people is where you were lacking as a child. And these are the parts where projection, even if it's in a kindness, it depends on where you are on the path, but like sometimes even kindness can be a projection of one's own weakness. Until that weakness is strong, like we mentioned in the beginning, it becomes stronger, right? Because you gain more faith in your heart, which gives you the courage that you need to do what you will, to do God's will. And then to also, this is how you purely can actually give faith and help other people. Because for instance, when you go to help and it doesn't work, and I know you know what I'm saying, it's because you're supposed to be taking that and giving that to yourself. Doing things or making decisions, right? For yourself, not to be selfish, but so that you actually are having the energy be in the right place. So that I guess you don't rely on other people to protect you. And you can actually, because then what happens is everybody is being self-sufficient in the tribe because none of us are children here, right? Even if you're in your 20s, you're not a child. You're an adult. Let's see. Well, that one's kind of intense. Let's keep going. Oh, the sun just came out. There's snow on the ground, too. It's so awesome. It's really, really beautiful. Okay, the environment of souls, the sun. What's this one? Just a second. Okay, this card sits below the child and the mask of nature in a line. It's actually called the right of blood. And I actually just saw like a woman having a baby, and you know, there's a lot of blood with being born. You know, it's and you have to, and then I keep seeing the umbilical cord and it's really long, and then it has to be cut, right? Because if not, then the child and the mother dies, right? You have to separate sometimes these emotional spaces from the past, from like find your own means of nurturing yourself, right? And seeing that relationship with you and say God in and of itself, that as I heard as your relationship, something that is healthy and good in and of itself, because this is what helps the tribe so much, right? This card, for instance, is about doing what is necessary, right? Also a successful completion and survival. So I need you to know that you have such a strong heart, that your heart is really clear. And you do, for some of you, this is a really hard conversation with Taurus. For others of you, it's where Libra's actually like becoming not stronger than Taurus, but it's where, because you have to remember, Taurus is Earth and Venus, right? And so it's soft. It's soft. Libra and Venus it's harder, The moon is exalted, for instance, in Taurus. Saturn is exalted in Libra. So what we're talking about here, again, is like a moon-Saturn polarity point. I'm not trying to make this astrological, but I guess, yeah, and there's the moon, and there's the father and the child, which is moon and Saturn. Let's read that to close this out. Oh, doing what needs to be done too. You have 2 majors on the board, so you already know what to do. What's on the bottom? 3, there's the Empress. Just a second. Well, I just saw the mother complex. Okay, let's read this because a lot of people come from divorced families. It says, some negative traits that can arise when the symbolism of the mother is very strong and that of the father is weak or negative. The basic problem then is that the child is reluctant to grow beyond the early stage of ego development. This is the phenomenon of the child who doesn't want to leave the womb, like I saw with that thing, who does not want to leave the womb, who clings to his mother instead of going out and relating to his peers. He is shy and unwilling to leave home, needing to be taken care of to an inordinate degree, and seemingly unable to stand by himself. Whenever the outer world offers a challenge in the form of a simple competition with friends, an examination at school, or a demand that he perform some task consistently or fulfill some expectation, he regards it as a threat to his survival. Authority figures seem cruel and threatening, so the child tries to hide whenever one appears. Often the child feigns physical ailments in order to avoid going out and facing the world. All these patterns are readily recognized in the child who is, quote-unquote, tied to his mother's apron strings. Less familiar are the forms that this takes in adulthood, although I could see, okay, then it goes, adults who suffer from a strong negative mother complex are extremely reluctant to compete against their peers or the larger society. Their parents may take care of them to an unusual degree, even after they have grown up. In more extreme cases, such a person will live with his parents much longer, or with their family much longer than normal. Such persons are usually unusually passive, and when trouble comes into their lives, they try to make themselves out to be victims of circumstance beyond their control. They may feel like no one understands them or appreciates them as the beautiful people they really are. They may really be beautiful people, as the qualities of gentleness and kindness are often very strong in them. But instead of showing their world their beauty, they expect the world to come to them. The current willingness of many middle-class young people to go on welfare... What is this? Well, let's fast forward. The father archetype in our culture has been weakened by the fact that the father is usually absent from the home so much of the time. Now, I guess this is important to remember in ways of dealing with your own, finding your courage, right? Because, again, I see no one is a child here, right? So it's like taking responsibility for oneself. It says, as many of these individuals become older, a sense of world weariness sets in, and their will to live weakens, for it has never been very strong. But it's so interesting because this card, what this is expressing is like a strong will to live, but it's a person who has been through a lot, right? So you have this, but this is important. I guess it's important that we're reading this. It says, still there? It cut out, sorry. I don't know where I don't know what the last thing we said was. Let's focus on these cards for a second. It was getting too heady there with the book, right? But I know there are some important factors. I guess the case in point, Libra, is that I heard you are what you eat. You are what you do. And I keep seeing this as an umbilical cord, and it's like it is something that has to be cut. Now, any of you who also have a hard Saturn, or have, I think everybody, in my opinion, everybody has mother issues, even if you love your mother and she was quote unquote perfect and you defend her, etc. Some say that although yes, we are all connected to things, but about the age of 35 is when Saturn finally stops giving a person a hard time as much. And also some say this is when we actually, the energy, like the energetic cord from our mother, particularly since she bore us, right? It has to be cut because people need to grow up to be good tribe members, right? I feel like Pisces and Cancer's reading will also be very helpful for you. Now, of course, if you've already been working on this, good. But the thing is we're all on different points in the path, and maybe this is for some of you just a reminder. For others of you, it's a helpful means of releasing the stones emotionally. You know what I mean? Like creating emotionally in a different way. Because this card, particularly the Stone of Souls, is about the truth becoming obvious. Right? And it's about paying attention to what's in plain sight. Right? Being just really aware of what's happening. Because who can... I guess the thing is whether as a parent or just as a a member of the collective or the tribe, what have you, it's like if adults don't grow up, right? Like in New York City, it was so interesting. I would try to date people in my early 30s, and I was like, there were guys that were like almost in their 40s that were acting like children. Do you know what I mean? They were literally acting like they were like 12, 15 years old, choosing. No judgment. I'm just saying from my observation, paying attention, it's what it was. But the thing is like Virgo said, we have to protect the children and then respect the elders. But if people don't grow up, right, and take on that responsibility and be like, well, I'm a mother, I need to, or I'm a father, I need to, you know, or I need to go to work, or I need to, again, like we said in the beginning, if you don't know what you need and what you therefore need to do, then the truth is not obvious. It's very convoluted. And then that whole protection mechanism is sort of, again, convoluted, because what one is wanting then is the inner child to be taken care of, right? Again, like we mentioned, or the mother, you want someone to mother you. Even if it's, for instance, you could be a woman and you date men, for instance, it doesn't matter. It's like that can still be a projection of what you were lacking, you know? And so I guess you have to be aware of what you were lacking and then understand where you need to build more faith in yourself, and using all that beautiful Venusian energy that you have in your soul, you know, that love that you have for the world. Okay, I see. Let's close like this. This is how your relationships will become better. Just a second. It says, serenely curious, not driven by fear. This is the first lesson in learning how to find, which is to find a place where one can see clearly. If he wants a broader perspective or larger vision, he cannot find it by looking at the same things in the same way from the same place. He also knows the second lesson, that his attitude will have a big effect on what he finds when he seeks. That if he looks for the good in the world, he will surely find it. Now, the thing is I feel like you have a natural tendency to find the good in the world, right? It's a beautiful thing. The good in people, right? Even really, really shitty people. Right? So, a lot of forgiveness there, and that's a beautiful thing. We're supposed to do that, but this is where the ego development needs attention. It's like, what is the good in you? What are your strengths? You know, how are you need to know this in yourself. Do you know what I mean? Because if not, then then you become prey for other people, right? And other people hurt you. And I know this has happened before. I don't know why we're discussing it in such a way, but I guess this is just what needs to be talked about in this time. Okay. Pisces and Cancer's reading. This is also the moon and Jupiter. Oh yeah, look at that. There's a mother having a child. I need you to know how that you as an individual, you are important. Like, you being born, you were a miracle. Do you know what I mean? Like, your life, this life is a miracle. And it's beautiful. And you don't have to be perfect all throughout it. Some things are painful, right? Think about how scary it is to have a child. You know what I mean? If you find out you're pregnant, for instance, this kind of stuff. Like, think about this, right? You end up being like, oh my God, I'm going to be a father. I'm going to be a mother. Like, these are, and then actually going through the whole process and then actually releasing that, right? Once there's a lot of growth there, releasing it. I feel like you do have some strong inner child work that needs some attention, especially for those of you who have children. And I would say what we talked about with, looking at whether your father was available or around, right? If your mother, if that was positive or negative. I heard, this, because the thing is wherever you are, you have to process that to become a good adult. Because if not, then there's just like this subconscious sort of projection, or even unconscious, because Aries to me is the 12th house. It's like really unconscious projection onto others. And so you really want to be aware of why you're doing what you're doing, Because you help balance the world, so you have to be confident in yourself. Do you know what I mean? Know what you need to do when you need to do it. And then doing it. And realizing that you'll never fail. Plus, everybody loves a Libra. Libra actually never goes without options of help. I mean, most people don't. But you always have many, many, many options. But sometimes you'll stay with one thing and not change again because it's uncomfortable. Venus, right? But again, if the mother didn't decide to change and be like, oh shit, this baby has to come out of my body, I have to release this, then again, they both die. And therefore, it's not healthy for anyone. And the miracle washes away, right? So I guess don't be closed off to anything, or realize what you're closed off of because of something that is so long ago. That doesn't really have anything to do with now. Like a fear. Do you know what I mean? And again, I see Pisces, Cancer. Let's read this last one. Yours is long. It's fine. You need it. You're allowed a little extra time. Here we go. This is your Mars. This is when you find your courage. Right? When you finally find that courage in your heart, this is what happens. It says the Father understands some important needs of his people. Food, safety, community. To meet their needs, he is very aware of time. He learns from the past, pays attention to the present, and anticipates his steps into the future. Through observing the seasons, he knows the time of abundance and the time of lack and prepares for both. He uses all the tools and resources available to him for the benefit of the tribe. Abstract symbols aid him in the hunt and in governing. While all predators know that any fighting should be avoided if possible, he also knows that sometimes this is required to protect his people, and again for you, himself. Right? This card is very much about planning for the future. You know, how are you a leader in your community? We talked about that in the very beginning, right? Leadership. Like, how are you a leader? You know, how are you, where are you in the totem pole of your tribe? You know, or the circle, where and who does what. And now this doesn't necessarily, you know, we can be far away. Like I mentioned, I think it was the Pisces, right? Like even me to you, wherever you are, we're in the same tribe. If you're still here, yeah, we're totally in the same tribe, right? Those roots are deep, and I'm very grateful for you. This is a strong conversation. I'm proud of you for having this conversation. This is some good inner child work. And especially in Aquarius time, usually Aquarius to me can be very heady. So it's nice to be able to kind of spear point that, you know, because that's the only way to change the mind is to change Aquarius, you know. Which to a human, that's necessary, right? The way we keep remembering something, or the stories we keep telling ourselves about a situation or what you can and cannot do. And for you, it's probably cannot more than anything. Either you don't feel like you can because you don't feel strong enough, or you don't feel like you deserve it because someone else is supposed to have it. But I need you to know that's also a projection mask of your childhood wound too, you know, or wounds. And this is where eventually you have to recognize your own anger too, you know, and understand like because you have to release it, right? If you constantly are just like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. It's like, no one's that fine all the time. No way, that's a lie. And we all are weak sometimes. And I see cancers, and that's okay. You know, you have to recognize, again, the weakness in you to be able to even find the courage, because that's admitting humility, right? Leo, which will expand and then make you have to be like, oh, what's going on here? It's going to open up that heart space. But then what that does is it enlightens you and causes you to be able to move forward and have more believe in yourself more. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. It's Saturn's day too when I recorded this. Probably shouldn't have, whatever. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Yeah, something like, well, please watch Cancer's reading. I love you, Libra. Thank you for being here. Please take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.